Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a down south education on Florida sports and athletics, it's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, this is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Welcome. I'm glad you guys could join me here on this Saturday afternoon/evening. We got quite a few things to talk about. From a jurisdictional purpose, the show will be relatively short, but from a detailed perspective, we actually got quite a few things to go over. Despite the loss of now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers inside the pro football playoff picture scenario, whatever you want to call it, our boys did really good, so we're going to go over that in a moment. But first things first, I want to give a shout out to IE Sports Radio. You guys, I love what we do here. I love what we have going on. I thank you guys for this continued support week in and week out, and I hope you guys all enjoy the show. Now then, moving into the realm of sports, guys, from a Tampa Bay perspective, we have a few things to talk about here. We're going to talk some emotions. We're going to talk collateral damage. We're going to talk vision for the future. There's a bunch of things to discuss with this Tampa Bay team whom nobody saw traveling as far into the playoffs, let alone making the playoffs as we did. So we are going to hand out our flowers because it'll be a while before we're able to hand out any more flowers to a Florida football team now that all the teams have been eliminated from playoff contention. So when it comes to Tampa Bay, let's review a couple of things, okay? Let's take it from the top. Let's give you guys an in-depth analysis of what it was like right here in the city of Tampa Bay, okay? So a few years back, the GOAT, Tom Brady, comes to play for Tampa Bay. For those of you who do not know, Tom Brady is my favorite NFL player and my favorite quarterback of all time. And people may say, well, how? He played in New England for, 20 years. Well, guys, if you remember the teams that Tom Brady beat, okay, that's a big reason for it. All right, guys, growing up as a Buccaneer fan, I was born in 1994 for reference, okay? In 1994, the Buccaneers were hardly smelling the playoffs. By the time I was 5 years old, they were smelling the playoffs every year. But we couldn't seem to score an offensive touchdown. I mean, realistically speaking, for those of you who are old enough to remember what that was like back in the 90s, the Buccaneers would make it to the playoffs. They'd ride this tremendous defense to the playoffs. Okay, tremendous. One of the greatest defenses to ever do it. But you need to score points, right? And that was something Tampa Bay could not do early on in its young, established 90s presence. I want to pick the right words here because that's what it was. It was very young. We were doing it through the draft, guys. We weren't really doing it through free agency. We were doing it through the draft. So when you build a team through the draft, it takes a little while. The good news is it lasts a little while too. It's not just this one and done conceptual, oh look, we went and got the, this guy, now we're in playoff contention all of a sudden. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we've seen that happen and it work out, but just like for Tampa Bay, it was a very short time period that we're able to enjoy that, okay? So that's exactly what I mean when I talk about how young this team was, how young I was when watching this team. And the Buccaneers did a great job drafting players. Some of the players, for reference, just so you guys would know, have ideas. Mike Alstott, the A-Train, perhaps the greatest fullback of all time. Perhaps he's in the conversation, rightfully so. Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp, two of the very best to ever do it at their positions, period, the end. And also the signing of John Lynch, he was big. I think he was really the first big piece that Tampa Bay grabbed in the draft and was able to do something with it at that safety position because, he was good to go, fresh out. And that was one of the things that was very impressive about this defense is that a lot of these guys played as rookies, okay? You don't see that happen, it's rare, but when it happens, it's special. And obviously, Tampa Bay was then able to make it special in 2002 by hosting one of the most illustrious Super Bowls of all time. This was one of the few times we got to see the number one offense in Rich Gannon, Jerry Rice, Tim Brown, Porter, Charlie, all those guys on that offense that made such a dynamic offense for the Raiders, the then Oakland Raiders at that time. And obviously the number one defense in the league at that time, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, behind Monty Kiffin, calling the defensive shots. And John Gruden was our head coach, which made that story even that much better, right? So you get where I'm going with this. Tom Brady won the surrounding 3 Super Bowls around Tampa Bay's Super Bowl. And in those surrounding 3 Super Bowls, the teams that he beat were the St. Louis Rams, the then St. Louis Rams, okay, who knocked out the Bucs to get there, okay. The following Super Bowl was the Carolina Panthers, okay, which is a division rival, so of course we're rooting for Tom Brady. And then the Eagles, who is a team that had knocked out Tampa Bay the last 2 times in the playoffs before they finally got their, NFC Championship victory to ride into a Super Bowl. So you get where I'm going with this. It's hard not to be a Brady fan if you're from Tampa. So him coming over to Tampa Bay was absolutely amazing, and what it did for us was absolutely amazing. But then there's the drop off, and you say, okay, the Buccaneers lost Tom. They lost the players that came with Tom, right? Gronkowski, Leonard Fournette, all these different guys. And how do you rebuild? Like, what can you do? All right, so now that we've established that was the setting, let's talk about what the Bucs did about it, okay? They signed who they could sign, which was good, wasn't great. Wish you would have kept Jordan Whitehead or Mike Edwards, one of those guys, because, let's just call it like what it is. Ryan Neal was absolutely tragic this year. I mean, this guy, there's a 0% chance he ends up back with the team. He's terrible. He belongs back in high school, okay? I'm sorry to be so aggressive towards him, but for any of you who watched the Buccaneers game, Ryan Neal was a fundamental part of us losing, and he's been a fundamental part of our losing all year long, for reference, okay? Excuse me, my apologies, guys. So, that's the sad part, all right? The good part is picking up Baker Mayfield and what we were able to do in the draft. Okay, so let's go over Baker Mayfield. First things first, if you've been listening to my show long enough, you know that I've said this. I'm a Baker Mayfield fan, and I've also delivered quite a few reasons as to why I'm a big fan of Baker, okay? First off, I watched him in college. He was absolutely phenomenal in college, okay? Comes out, gets an interesting deal there in Cleveland, but we know that running the football can only get you so far. Yes, a great run game is key to championship teams, but you also got to have some continuity there, and I think the Browns were kind of a bunch of misfits thrown together. When you look at that team, you had OBJ and what's his name he played football with down in LSU. Those two reunited again, but it seemed more like just them being reunited instead of it being like an actual, component that was missing from a working vehicle kind of thing, right? So when you look at that team, I really see a bunch of different guys just kind of thrown together, a bunch of different really good football players, but they're thrown together and just said, hey man, I hope this thing works. Well, it worked for Tampa Bay because we had Tom Brady at quarter. Tom Brady before a quarterback is a leader. Okay, so as soon as he got here, the moment he signed with Tampa Bay, by the end of the day, he's calling Mike Evans. He's calling Chris Godwin. He was calling all of the guys. Hey, we got to get together. We need to work out. I need to know how the ball feels around you. I need to know how you like the ball. Do you like it here? Do you like it there? Do you prefer me to do this? Do you prefer me to do that? All the different things that make a leader good. Okay, now throughout history, one of the traits that all great leaders have had is they have been great handlers of men. What does that mean? That means they're excellent at delegating. It's something that Tom Brady was a wizard at. He always knows what he has on his team, and he knows how to make it work, and he did that. And as a result, we experienced the most winningest period in Tampa Bay's history, and also I got to personally live inside of a fantasy land where my favorite quarterback all time played for my favorite team all time, hosted the Super Bowl in our own home, in our backyard. By the way, I worked that event, you guys, and let me tell you, it was absolutely amazing. A top 3 moment in my life for sure, next to my children being born, and I would probably say graduating high school, right? Because everybody loves graduating high school, but realistically speaking, it was one of the funnest periods in my life, and I'm so thankful for it. And now that we've removed ourselves from that and we're moving into this future, Baker Mayfield is the guy. And you're going to have people say, oh man, he threw 2 interceptions against the Lions. And I'm like, okay, so listen, let's talk about that, right? And let's wrap up talking about Baker first, actually. Baker finishes this season, in my opinion, as the comeback player of the year, okay? For reference, okay, and this is not to throw any shade because I have a lot of respect for these players as well, okay? Jimmy Garoppolo did absolutely nothing this year. Okay, I don't even know how many games he ended up starting before he got hurt, but the same story happens with Jimmy Garoppolo every year. The man is, I think, incapable of playing a perfect 16-game season without doing something or ending up in some situation where he gets hurt or injured. And I don't hold him responsible for that. However, I cannot not hold him responsible for it as well. He is his own man, and he is in control of his livelihood. And we've seen quarterbacks play umpteen more snaps and just, I mean, look at Brett Favre. I mean, the man, how many starts straight was it? It was damn near 300 starts, wasn't it? Before he couldn't start a game, and he basically couldn't start a game because he was too old at that point. Look at Tom Brady. He missed one season because of a torn ACL on a dirty hit, and aside from that, he started like every game, okay? Like every game that he played. So that part is a very, very important thing that I look at, especially when I look at somebody like Jimmy G. Jimmy G did absolutely nothing this year, okay? Deshaun Watson also didn't play much before he got injured. He played okay, before he got injured, but he had the best defense in the league. So, like, playing okay with the best defense doesn't amount to much, right? We have Aaron Rodgers, who got injured, 4 snaps into the season? And then you have Baker Mayfield, who leads the Bucs to a division crown with a brand new offense, a brand new city, a brand new offensive coordinator, which we are going to cry about in a few moments, and a brand new head coach, okay? So, for lack of the people here in Tampa and outside of Tampa who do not want to give Baker Mayfield his flowers, we are going to give it to him here on this show, especially as somebody who's watched him from being a kid, okay? Watch this guy at 18 years old sling the football at Oklahoma, okay? So, this is a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. So, Baker, comeback player of the year. He was, I would say he was a grade shy of phenomenal. If I had to give the man a grade, it's either like a B++++ or A-, right? Like, I can't go lower than a B+ for what he was able to do because 8 out of 10 other quarterbacks are failing in this situation. And we've seen it, all right? We've seen it, so I don't even have to give you stats on that. But congratulations, Baker, on a wonderful season. And for those of you who do not know, he's been playing hurt since the first Saints game, okay? That was something else that I think a lot of people didn't pay attention to. I'm here in Tampa, I can tell you, and we even go past their practices sometimes. We can see them practicing sometimes when we're driving past the facility. And let me tell you something. Baker's been playing hurt. All right, he's been playing hurt. So for him to play as well as he has done this year and playing hurt with the new team, etc., we're going to give him his flowers today. I know I'm harping on it a little bit, but let's be real here, okay? The guy's comeback player of the year, and there's no doubt about it, all right? So going back to what happened with the Detroit game, because I told you guys we would go over this, right? So listen, at the Detroit game, all right, it was a slanted game. Okay, now I'm not going to take anything away from the Lions. Okay, I'm not taking anything away from the Lions. I refuse to do that. The Lions played a good football game. I don't like the Lions. That's not a team that I've cared too much for. The best thing the Lions have ever produced, in my opinion, is Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. Those are about the two things that, make me happy about the Lions. Aside from that, I could care less. I mean, but realistically speaking, they have a good team. They have a good program going on right now. Dan Campbell's a hell of a head coach, and I already knew that. Like, that didn't surprise me. What did surprise me, okay, is the level at which the referees went to the extent that they did to make sure that the Lions won the game. Guys, if you watch this game, I'm going to give you a stat that doesn't apply to any other football team, nor has it really applied to any other football team. The Lions didn't accumulate their first penalty in this game, okay, until 36 minutes into the game. Their first penalty came 6 minutes into the second half, or the third period, whatever you want to call it, guys. Take that in consideration. If you mean to tell me that this football team, okay, is perfect for 30 minutes, why are they not undefeated? If you can play football perfect for 30 minutes and you're not undefeated, there's something weird is going on. Because think about how good of a football team, how much continuity you have to have, how much discipline you have to have for 11 players to play every single snap perfectly for 36 minutes. Okay, that stat alone proves what I'm trying to say. We don't see that. We just don't ever see it because it doesn't happen. Teams make mistakes, and that's why officials are there. Unfortunately, for reference, the officials clearly wanted Detroit to win, especially, again, if you watch the game, guys, down to the announcers. Now, I don't like Chris Collinsworth. Now, for any of you who have watched him call games, this man will beat a dead horse with another dead horse. It's terrible. Like, his announcing is... it's absolutely horrendous. He focuses on two subjects the entire game, and he hardly ever breaks away from those subjects, okay? So I'm definitely not a fan of that. But it made watching the game that much harder from a Tampa Bay perspective because we already know we're in Detroit. Guys, we know it's an away game. We've known for a week, okay? Realistically, we knew beforehand because the only way we were going to host a home game is if the Packers beat the 49ers, okay? They didn't. So we knew the rest of our games were going to be away games, regardless of what happened, the week before with the Eagles or whatever the case may be. So it was a really hard thing to watch when you kind of see every bit of America tilting towards Detroit. I mean, you hear them keep mentioning, their first playoff win in 30 years. Okay, we get it. We just went through a 17-year drought ourselves. Guys, we know. We know what it feels like, all right? So I got to admit, it was really hard to watch the game, and with the Buccaneers having to play against Detroit in their hometown and the refs in their back pocket, let alone hearing Chris Collinsworth and the rest of the team kind of just ride their coattails the entire game, the Buccaneers made it an 8-point ball game, and they had a chance to win. Unfortunately, the two interceptions that Baker threw ended up being the difference. The first interception was not on him. Mike Evans has to make that catch. The second interception was crunch time, a lot of pressure on Baker. I wish Baker didn't throw that pass, but at this point, what else can we really say? What else is Baker supposed to do? He gave everything that he had to give, and that's going to lead me into some of the things that I see here in my comment section that I'll actually want to address real quick. First things first, thank you guys so much. We're going to have a great show this evening. This is a bit of an emotional response for those of you who are just checking in. We're talking about what happened and what it felt like from a Tampa Bay perspective. Of course, we know what it's like from a Detroit perspective. They won. And for any of you guys who follow a team who's been in such a situation as Detroit, you guys know what it's like to win that kind of game. So absolutely phenomenal news there coming out. For Detroit, but for Tampa Bay, heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. Yes, it was a very successful season for the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. I would call this one of the most successful. What we were able to do with Tom in our first season only happened because we had Tom and surrounding pieces again. Gronk, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, all on the same receiving core, bro. That's probably the greatest receiving core ever assembled. Like, look at the level at which Tom was able to operate on his first season with a new team, with a completely new team. Also, having Bruce Arians at head coach was absolutely phenomenal as well. So that stresses this loss, this season, even more of how successful it was. Because again, this is just something that we didn't expect to see here in Tampa. We're very, very proud of. So should Baker be back next year? Absolutely, absolutely. Here's the deal. The first thing you ask yourself when you're trying to determine how you should go about the quarterback situation. Does Baker want to be here? Yes, he already said he wants to be here. 1. 2, look at the draft. And CJ Stroud was an absolute anomaly this year, okay? And now, you guys follow the show. Y'all remember before the season started, I said, listen, this guy's successful. He's ready to start. He can come in week 1 and start, and he'll bring success to the team. I wasn't playing when I said that. I watched a lot of college football. I knew what I was talking about. I do not see a CJ Stroud in this year's draft. Now, make no mistake about it. These quarterbacks are talented. Okay, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., who else we got? Drake May. Just so many talented quarterbacks coming out of this draft. CJ Stroud had the type of touch on the football that usually takes quarterbacks 5 to 7 years to accumulate. And the last person that I saw have that kind of touch as a rookie was Russell Wilson. Okay, that was like a decade ago. That was greater than a decade ago. That was really like 12 or 13 years ago. Okay, guys? I do not see a CJ Stroud in this draft. The closest thing will be Michael Penix Jr., if he can stay healthy, or Bo Nix. Okay? Bo Nix lost to Michael Penix Jr. twice in college. Okay? That speaks for itself. All right, it's very rarely that one quarterback just beats another one outright twice in the same season. Okay, that doesn't happen often. So I look at Baker and I say, okay, is Baker better than these quarterbacks coming out of the draft? Without the shadow of a doubt, he's better because he's got the experience edge. That experience matters, guys. It really, truly matters. So when I look at what Baker was able to do in his first season with Tampa Bay with absolutely no continuity with any of these players, I say absolutely he deserves to come back. I would still draft a quarterback simply because obviously the Buccaneers do not feel comfortable putting Kyle Trask in really at all. I mean, Baker's been hurt a couple of times this season, and each of those times Baker was like, nah, I got this. And that means Kyle Trask is definitely not ready, you know, and at this point, if he's not ready, I don't know what to say. All right, now, mind you, he's a Gator, he's my boy. I really love what he did for the University of Florida, but I just don't see what I've seen in Baker, what I saw in Tom, in Kyle Trask. And as a result, I would rather have a rookie who has a lot more competence, and also knowing that Baker may not sign. We may not be able to offer Baker a 5-year contract. It may be very well a 1 or 2 year contract that we offer him. Okay, so that's something else to take in consideration. But absolutely, Baker Mayfield has a place here next season. I don't see why he wouldn't. The only thing that I could see him deterring that would be if Mike Evans was to leave. That would be a tough hit for him because Mike Evans was his go-to target, led the league, tied the league leader with touchdowns by a receiver this year with Tyreek Hill. Mike Evans is an absolute monster. Now, some of the drops in the last couple of weeks, yeah, man, questionable, kind of scary, but I still would put my money on Mike Evans. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin seems like a tandem that needs to retire here in Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield could get really used to them. I think Baker would actually go off if he had a full off season. Now that he's got a season of experience under his belt, a full off season with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin could be absolutely deadly to the league next year, especially if he learns to turn down those interceptions, those turnovers. Some of those interceptions not on him, but the numbers still speak for itself, and 12 interceptions is a bit much in a regular season. Hopefully he can tone that down if he can. I could see him performing even better than he did this year, next year. I mean, the continuity itself would be huge. It'd be tremendous for him. As for some of the other players, yes, Lavonte David may retire, so there's that. I don't think that he will. I think he's got another season in him based off of how I've seen him play. He didn't get burned much in coverage at all, and he played absolutely phenomenal against the Eagles last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say. Last week, he also played well against Detroit. If you actually go look, he actually did play well. So, Lavonte David, if he wants to stay, another 1 year deal, probably, I wouldn't be surprised if he retired, though, as well. So just don't be surprised, guys, if y'all see Lavonte David retiring. I think he's at 13 seasons now. So he's definitely the most tenured Buccaneer here. And at this point, he'll make it into the Ring of Honor. He's a Super Bowl champion. Definitely one of the greatest linebackers in Tampa Bay's history. And it's a short history with a lot of great linebackers to begin with. So Lavonte David, like I said, either he retires or he signs for a 1 year deal. I wouldn't be surprised if he does that, though, guys. Devin White, most likely going to be out. I agree with that, Dad. Devin White didn't play like a man that wanted the contract that he claimed he wanted. And even if he was to leave to a different team and think he's going to get paid, he's not. This past season really showed that Devin White was replaceable, especially when you go on a 3-game win streak without him starting. So, I mean, that by itself, man, KJ Pratt, yeah, he definitely stepped up, man. He stepped up in a major way, and he's only going to get better. All right, KJ Britt's been with the team for a few years now, so he's only going to get better. And he was a late draft pick he might have been undrafted, to be honest with you, when we did get him. So something else for you guys to take in consideration. And should the Bucs think themselves as being close to a title, or fortunate that they're in possibly the weakest division of the NFL? Definitely, we're fortunate that we're in the weakest division of the NFL. Any other division, and we don't have the same record for sure, which I don't even know if we're 500 or not. And I'm not saying that because I don't have belief in my team. I'm saying that because realistically, there are some divisions out there like the NFC North where every team is good, and it just so happens to be that 1 or 2 teams have to have a bad record. It's just math, really. It's have nothing to do with the talent on the team. Joe Burrow is definitely a tremendous quarterback. He's been hurt for the last year and a half, but realistically, can we look at the Bengals and call them a bad team? No, they just haven't played as well as they can play, right? And then obviously they have the Ravens twice a year, and the Ravens, in my opinion, are the best team in the NFL. Yes, I think the 49ers are a tremendous team, and I love my San Francisco 49ers. The problem with that is that Brock Purdy has not proved himself to the level that Lamar has. I mean, it seems like the more you push adversity into Lamar's face, the more calm he gets and the better he performs. I can't say that about the NFC South. The only person in the NFC South that played well this year was Baker Mayfield from the quarterback perspective. The other three quarterbacks, I mean, what do you want? What do you want me to tell you? Like that the Panthers are a young team. Okay, tell that to the Houston Texans. Doesn't matter if you're young. It matters if you're talented and effective. So, I think we're just fortunate we're in the weakest division in football. Although I think that this division will get better, and I think that we won't be within a year or 2 years. We won't be the weakest division in football. But that's just my opinion on it. The Bucs will definitely be lucky there to be in that division, though. Of course, there's no way we weren't gonna win it, but it looked like for a little bit it was a little questionable. That's what I'm gonna say for that. And also, in regards to the other few players, Antoine Winfield Jr. will absolutely be signed. There's no way in hell we let that man walk. Tristan Wirfs will also be signed. Actually, it's more likely that he'll be tagged. He'll be franchise tagged to buy some space to lock him up for a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if they franchise tag him this year, and then the next year they go ahead and slap a big 5-year deal on him because he's the best offensive tackle in football. Unfortunately, he's the only offensive tackle we have. Okay, everybody else freaking sucks on that Tampa Bay offensive line. And if you can't look at last game and not tell me that's the case, I mean, Baker's been getting hit all year long. Okay, so that's what's going on there on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, Mike Evans, you got to lock him up as well. Obviously, Mike Evans would be the first guy I sign because if you lock in Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield's more likely to sign. You see how that works? Because if you lock in Baker, that doesn't mean anything to Mike Evans because if Mike Evans walks, he can go whatever team he wants. Any team that needs a quarterback. Or that needs a wide receiver, my bad, and has a decent quarterback, Mike Evans could easily just jump in and lift a team to a Super Bowl as a wideout one. I mean, the guy's absolutely that good. So Mike Evans has to get locked up. You lock up Mike Evans first, then you lock up Baker, and then you lock up Antoine. Antoine's a safety, so that should be a little bit easier to work out than a wide receiver or quarterback situation. I think that's the way that you go about it. Devin White walks. Get 23, Ryan Neal, get him out. I don't care. Christian Eisen takes his spot. Christian Eisen played phenomenal for a rookie. And let's talk about the other rookies real quick. Kalijah Cansey, Yaya Diaby, Servassier Dennis. Get ready to see those three names on a regular basis moving forward for Tampa Bay because let me tell you, as far as rookies go defensively, these were three of the very best. Antoine Winfield Jr. is Defensive Player of the Year. Carlton Davis can walk if he wants to walk. I have not been impressed with him at all this season. He had one good play, which was a short pick six off of jumping a route. Aside from that, he was terrible. Jamel Dean was phenomenal, but he was hurt all the dang time. Okay, so he needs to learn how to stay healthy because I've never seen somebody get hurt when it matters the most as much as he has. Okay, 3 times this year we've seen him get hurt and leave games when we needed him. So that's that as far as the defensive side of the ball is concerned. And, of course, the draft. We picked round 1, pick number 26. Obviously, I'm thinking go quarterback because there should be a quarterback available at that point, especially with the surrounding teams having young quarterbacks already. I'd pick a quarterback just to be safe, just to be prepared in the event that Baker Mayfield goes down because, like I said, they don't want to put Kyle Trask in there. That's just been a formality at this point. After that, you got to start patching up the offensive line. Our offensive line is terrible. Even go get some guys from free agency because what we have on the O-line is not going to work. We've got to protect Baker. If we protect Baker, we win. When we don't protect him, we lose. Okay? So that's got to get fixed up before anything else. Cade Otton has separated himself from the other tight ends as the go-to tight end for Tampa Bay. I think he'll only continue to get better. Hopefully he can work a little bit with Gronk and learn about what Gronk used to do to be successful because obviously he's going to need to, especially as the go-to tight end. The others, I could care less about the other tight ends that we have. They don't perform as well. Nowhere near to Cade Otton's level. On the defensive side of the ball, as far as the draft is concerned, we're going to have to draft cornerbacks and safeties, guys. I mean, our interior 7, pretty good. Maybe one move there, maybe get an edge guy, maybe get another tackle, somebody that can fit whenever Kalijah and Vita Vea aren't in the matchup. But, if Will Gholston decides to resign, he decides to resign, and then we can keep him. We don't have to worry about a tackle, but we got to get somebody. We got to get an edge rusher. We got to get another edge rusher to help complement Yaya Diaby because Yaya's an absolute monster over there on that weak side. But Shaq Barrett, he could still play. I think Shaq Barrett still has it, but let's be honest, he's hurting, and we can't act like he's not. And obviously for a right reason. So that's the defensive side of the ball. Definitely got to go get a cornerback or two. I draft 2 cornerbacks, a safety, and an edge, and then use the rest on offensive talent. We don't need. I don't think we need any wide receivers. I think we've shown that that's probably the strongest point of this team. All right. So I think that's what we do there in the draft, guys. I really think that's what we do there. And then obviously the sad face that we have to talk about, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I was at work when I got the news that Carolina had hired Dave Canellis as their new head coach. I'm not mad at Dave Canellis because he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's elevating his family. He's elevating the support and the financial ability to sustain for himself and his family. So I congratulate him there. Here's this is where I draw the line. Everything else is going to be negative, so get ready for that, okay? First things first, Carolina has the worst program in all of NFL, okay? Their owner is terrible. I'm sure you guys had seen the video of him, but he's like throwing drinks at fans. And I'm thinking to myself, bro, as an owner, you can't do that. You just can't do that. So I don't know what became of that situation, but I remember seeing the video and I was just absolutely jaw dropped at the attitude that this man had. For reference, we dealt with a lot of disrespect from Lions fans, okay, before, during, and after the game. Let me tell you, they're one of the worst fan bases I've not had the pleasure or did not enjoy the pleasure of dealing with or meeting. But at the same time, I'm just calling a spade a spade. They won the game. Okay, Carolina, on the other hand, they've traded every good player they had. All right, what was it, DJ Moore, C-Mac? This program has just been all over the place, and I think that Dave Canellis, and then they fired their head coach. My apologies, at 1-13 record, and they fired their head coach. Like, I get it, but it's his first season. Like, I mean, what were you expecting him to just come out and go undefeated? Just 72 Dolphins? No. Okay, it takes time to build a successful program. Just look at the other programs. Look at the 49ers. They weren't successful, and now they are. They did it through the draft. Okay, and so Carolina has to buckle down the hatches because just because you hire a decent play caller as your head coach doesn't mean you're going to see success immediately. And also remember that you fired your head coach a season in. So Dave, you're walking into a situation where you could be fired less than a season into your tenure there at head coach. And obviously we have to see him 2 times a year. Unfortunately, Dave, we're going to have to destroy you. All right? You went and signed with Carolina. What did you expect? Okay? What did you expect? So congratulations to him on the move, but that's to the extent that I give it to him. I'm very sad for Baker. Okay? Because yet again, Baker is going to have to deal with a new offensive coordinator. I say, let Baker pick who he wants. Okay? Because he doesn't deserve this. He's dealt with this from when he went from the Browns over to Carolina, and then from Carolina over to the Rams, found success with the Rams, and now he's here in Tampa Bay. Just want a guy that he can, I hate to use this terminology, but somebody he can grow old with, right? Because he hasn't really been able to experience that. So that's just something else there that is very sad, inside the Buccaneers organization. There's also rumors that we may be losing our quarterback coach, Thad Lewis, who played very well, and it's so funny because people want to count Tampa Bay out. We had 8.5% chance to make the playoffs, let alone win the division, and yet we were able to do that. And as a result of us doing that, all these other teams want to, and I'm going to use this terminology, steal our coaches because they saw the success that they didn't want to acknowledge. So I know I kind of rambled on a little bit, guys, but I had to give you guys this end-of-the-year synopsis, especially now that we're heading into the offseason. We've only got 3 games left, NFC Championship game, AFC Championship game, and then Super Bowl. If I'm going off of the knowledge that I have, it's been leaked already that the NFL script is noted that it will be the 49ers versus the Ravens in the Super Bowl. This is the Super Bowl I called it to be earlier at the beginning of the season for those of you who remember. This was also the Super Bowl that took place exactly a decade ago. It was the Harbaugh Bowl, the 49ers versus the Ravens, which was one of the greatest Super Bowl matchups we've ever seen. I, at the time, was in boot camp at Fort Jackson, okay? And we were betting on the Super Bowl. So I bet right. I wanted the Niners to win, but usually the team that I want to win usually loses. So I bet for the Ravens, and I was happy that I did. And, so that was the experience there for that Super Bowl. This Super Bowl is going to be a much different Super Bowl. Both of these quarterbacks are mobile quarterbacks. Both of them have tremendous decision-making, but Lamar Jackson has been more consistent. So I would look for the Ravens to edge out the 49ers again, although, of course, I would like the 49ers to win, but I like both these teams. So I hope to see a great Super Bowl. In the off chance that it's not that Super Bowl, will remain to be seen. Then at the NFC Championship game, AFC Championship game. So I'm going to go Niners, Ravens. That's the Super Bowl I want. And that's my prediction for those 2 games. Let's go ahead and get to our first break of the evening. I know it's a little bit later than normal. I apologize, but I thank you guys for rocking with me here on Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pools, your host, and as always, this is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Guys, let's move away from the heartbreak, and let's move into... okay, so let's just be honest, right? This isn't heartbreaking, but this isn't that much better news. We're going to talk a little NBA, and there's like this trend between the Magic and the Heat. It's like they want to just do what each other is doing, right? Like charades, if you will. When the Heat are winning, the Magic are winning. When the Magic are losing, the Heat are losing. I'm not sure what the synchronicity is going on here in South Florida, but the Heat 24-21, the Magic 23-22. Okay, damn near the exact record. I don't know. Excuse me. My apologies, guys. This is definitely an interesting time for NBA basketball here in the South, and that's just because, so obviously the Heat won the Eastern Conference last year, but they don't look like they won the Eastern Conference last year. They don't like it at all. I watched the game earlier against the Knicks, and it was terrible. Now, first things first, hope that Julius Randle is okay. You know, he got injured very late into the game. There was 4 minutes and change left in the game. They were up by 18. He could have sat down. In all honesty, the Heat didn't want to win this game, and they don't seem like they want to win much of anything at all. As a matter of fact, they've lost 5 in a row. So, I hope that he's okay, for one. But for two, I hope the Heat are okay, right? So, Erik Spoelstra signs this $120 million extension, and I don't blame him. Erik Spoelstra is one of the best head coaches in the NBA right now, all right? He's definitely one of the best to ever do it. Phenomenal head coach. But, getting blown out by the Knicks 125-109, sheesh. I mean, what are the Heat going through now? I know roster's going flippy-floppy, and, you know, we just lost, what's his name, in a trade, and I'm at a loss for words, guys, and that's not typical of me. The Heat are just in a dark place right now, and they've got to try to pick up some momentum by finding a win. And like I said, they need to find one. They've lost 5 in a row. I believe that puts them at 7th, okay, in the Eastern Conference right now, which... I mean, they were 8th, I think, last year when they made it. So, there's that. But, Heat got to get it together. Like I said, lost 5 in a row, not looking good at all. The next team that they have to play it's not going to help increase their chances of anything. They got to see the Suns, okay? Phoenix Suns rocking a 26-19 record. You know, they got KD, Devin Booker, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea, okay? Good team, good program they're running over there in Phoenix. And that game is going to be Monday, January 29th, 7:30 p.m. So Monday night, obviously, if you're not going to be watching the Raw after Rumble, which we will be talking about later, that will be something for you to have a look out at. We're going to see if the Heat can try to pick up a big win here against Phoenix, okay? We're getting close to the All-Star break, and if they're going to play like this, I mean, listen, guys, it's not going to look good. They're going to have to figure something out. There's no doubt about it. They're going to have to figure something out. Obviously, they can. I believe that they can. You know, Eric Spoelstra, like I said, one of the best head coaches in the league. Just got to play better. Got to do better in transition. Got to do better offensively. Defensively, we'll play better if we play well on offense, okay? We're just not playing well on offense. So, defensively, we'll follow as long as we can figure it out. The Magic are also struggling right now. If you didn't get that by the record, 23-22 for the Magic. They lost to the Grizzlies yesterday, 107-106. That's a game they should have won. Grizzlies rocking an 18-27 record. They're not exactly playing good basketball this year. And the Magic should have been able to come out on top there, yet they weren't able to, losing a one-score ball game. It's just so debilitating, especially for a young team like the Magic. They also have to see the Suns, so as you've been noticing, there's been a rotation. Teams from the West, they'll come and they'll see the Magic and the Heat within the same week and then move on as they continue their rotation back up north. So get ready for that game. That game's going to be tomorrow, actually. That game's tomorrow at 6 p.m. And like I said, the Suns rocking a 26-19 record. Pretty good, clean record. Good enough for top 5 in the West right now. So we'll see if our teams can get it done against Houston. I mean, not Houston, my bad, against Phoenix. That's just what it comes down to. We'll have to see if our boys can do it. Good luck to both of the teams. Obviously, I'm thinking Phoenix is going to win both of these games. Phoenix is playing relatively good basketball at the moment. They've been shaky from time to time, but it seems like as long as they're not playing the Lakers, they're playing well. Shout out to the Lakers for beating Phoenix the other night. But, yeah, I mean, that's what's going on there in NBA basketball. Both teams are struggling. Like I said, Heat lost 5 in a row. Magic 1-3 in their last 4. 2-3 in their last 5. Nothing to write home about. Saving Private Ryan would not be, a good analogy for this situation. I mean, just nothing to write home about, like I said. These teams got to get it together. Hopefully they'll get it together before the All-Star break and they can get it in the break, get healed up, get rested up, and ready to perform afterwards and get ready to start make this postseason push. One of these teams will make the postseason. I have a feeling that one of these teams will not. And we'll see which is the last team standing. And it very could come down to the final week of the NBA season before we know for sure. But again, the Heat were in a similar situation last year. The Magic, this is their first time in this situation in a while, actually. So both teams have a shot, outside shot, but still have a shot nonetheless. Go Heat, go Magic. Now moving on to a team that is successful here in Central Florida. That would be our Tampa Bay Lightning. Shout out to the Bolts right now. They're rocking a 26-18-5 record, looking really, really good right now. Gotta say, I'm very proud of this team. They are surging. It seems like they've been that's the team that's on fire. It's funny that the team that plays on ice is the team that's on fire, right? How about that for reference, right? The Bolts, they got to see the Devils tonight, 7 p.m. Devils are rocking a 24-19-3 record. They have a pretty solid record themselves. This will be a phenomenal game. You guys want to see some Bolts hockey? Now is the time to check it out. We are 7-1 in the last 8. Okay, 7-1. Our boys look good, man. All right, just Stamkos, Kirchhoff, all these guys. They're balling right now. They're pucking right now. I don't know if pucking is a good. We'll use it. We'll use it for now, guys. We'll use it for now. But they're playing very well. They're doing it behind tremendous defense. That's what I love to see with our boys, because I know we can score. We, especially when we're getting the power plays, get a hat trick here and there. Just the kind of things that you want to see offensively. But it all starts on defense. You guys know that. I mean, a sound defense is always going to be a big, necessary component for a late postseason push. And our boys look like they're starting to return to that form that saw them see 3 Stanley Cup finals in a row. So, good job, Bolts. Keep it up, guys. Keep it up. I'm so proud of what you guys are doing right now. Next game, not going to be an easy one. Following the Devils, you guys got to play the Rangers. That game is going to be Wednesday, February 7th at 7 p.m. The Rangers are rocking a 29-16-3 record. Definitely one of the best teams in all of NHL right now. They're playing tremendous hockey. This would be a great matchup between these two teams. And I think that if the Bolts win this game against the Devils, that they'll be able to ride this momentum into New York and post a really good game, perhaps taking this team to 91 out of the last 10. I would love to see that and be able to talk to you guys about that next Saturday. So we're going to fingers crossed and hope for the best when it comes to that game. Go Bolts. You guys know we support you. You guys know that we love you. If you guys ever been to Tampa, you see about as much Bolts hockey signs as you will see Buccaneer signs. We love our team down here, and we're going to continue to support Big Blue every chance we get. Go Bolts. We love you. Keep pushing, guys, and we'll be watching that game tonight against the Devils in about 15 minutes, guys. So get ready for that one. Like I said, if you're looking for some Bolts hockey, great time to check out our boys. They're playing phenomenal hockey right now on the ice. So, that's what's going on there with the Bolts. Like I said, they're on fire. So, like I said, this would be the best time to check them out. Speaking of on fire, I got a couple of teams that aren't on fire, but they're not on fire, if that makes sense. I mean, they're trying. They're trying, okay? So, when I say that they're trying, I mean our college basketball teams, guys. The Florida Gators, the Noles, and the Canes. You know, coming into the season, a lot of guys thought that Florida State and Florida were dead in the water, okay? They thought Florida would be a slightly better team. They've been a slightly better team. They thought the Canes were going to be the best team. They were ranked. I think they started the season ranked at number 6. For those of you watching college basketball, guys, we're 30 days away from March Madness. Now's the time to start getting serious about your brackets. Now's the time to start watching college basketball. If you haven't been watching it, now is the time to start looking at what these teams have to offer, because this is when they're going to start to turn it up, right? They're going to start, like, emptying the bag in these games. Now, we started SEC competition about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, okay? The Gators have quietly won 3 in a row, all right? So shout out to our boys, Gators. We love you. Blue and orange has never looked so good. Actually, it's always looked good. It's looked good since '66, to be honest with you guys. But you guys know how it is. I mean, I love my Florida Gators. I bleed blue and orange. I'll hack it up with any Florida State or Georgia fan. Speaking of Georgia, guess who we beat? Georgia. All right, it was sound victory by the Gators. That came in the form of a 102-98 double overtime victory against Georgia. You love to see it. You love it. You love it. The Gators and the Bulldogs rivalry extends past football, okay? We want to beat them at everything. We want to beat Florida State at everything. That's just how it works here in the South. I mean, I don't know what it's like in these other states, because sometimes the rivalries just aren't a big deal. Like Michigan State, that's not a rivalry. That's a once every 10 years, there's a WTF moment, and then we talk about it for the next 10 days, and then for the next 10 years, it's Michigan whooping Michigan State's behind. That's not a rivalry. A rivalry is when Florida goes out and gets 2 championships in the early 2000s, and then here, you know, a decade and a half or so later, Georgia's doing the same thing, gunning for a 3rd, only to be knocked off by the same team that knocks off Florida, Alabama. That's a rivalry, because now there's other teams that incorporated, okay? Georgia knocking off Florida, only to be knocked off by Alabama, was such a sweet thing for us. It knocked out Florida State from the college football playoff as well. So you know, as a Gator, we're just sitting back here and we're just laughing. We're just Leonardo DiCaprio meme, if you guys know what I'm talking about, where he's pointing at the screen, he's got the beer and the cigarette in his hand. It's like that. That was pretty much how it felt watching this postseason unravel. Congratulations for Michigan, by the way, winning the national championship. Of course, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, last week, I should say. But you love it. As a Gator, you love to beat Georgia. So we beat Georgia, like I said, 102-98, double overtime victory. Both of our teams have the exact same record, 14-6 now. For reference, Georgia did come in with the 1 game ahead record. Now we own the tiebreaker on them. So good job, Gators, as we get ready to roll into Kentucky Wednesday, January 31st. 8 p.m. Guys, upset alert, okay? Beating Georgia is as good a momentum shift for a team as any. We are already on a 2-game win streak before this win, so make it a 3-game win streak, and now we're riding a 3-game win streak into Kentucky. It's time to get some payback. For those of you who remember the last game, I think it was a 4-point victory by Kentucky the last time that these two teams met, and Florida did a good job, handling Kentucky until the end of the game. They just couldn't close out. So the Gators have to learn how to close out. Me and my old man were talking about this earlier, and the Gators' biggest problem in basketball is once they get in a rhythm, they start trying to do cute stuff. Okay, stuff in term for a better S word. I don't like when they do that, guys. I don't. We did that. Our college football team did it, and our basketball team is doing the same thing. Guys, dance with what brought you. You guys remember Stone Cold Steve Austin back in the late 90s, early 2000s? And whenever JR would call his matches, he would always say Stone Cold dancing with what brought him. And you know what that brought him? A lot of success. Okay? I mean, Stone Cold won 3 Royal Rumbles, went on to capture the WWE title all 3 times that he won the Rumble, if I remember correctly. Guys, come on, man. You know, come on. Like, that's what we have to do, guys. We got to stop being cute and play Florida Gator basketball. All right? This is a storied franchise, not just in football, but in basketball as well. We've got a couple of national titles to our name under Billy Donovan back in the day. If you guys remember that, early 2000s, Gators were just tremendous. Absolutely phenomenal basketball team. We've got to get back to that, okay? We have to get back to that. Excuse me, my apologies, guys. The Noles, all right? Noles are 2-2 in the last 4. They lost to UNC 75-68. Now, here's the deal. UNC's are rocking a 17-3 record. They're ranked. They're like number 3. Okay? About what you expect, though. For those of you who do not know, Michael Jordan went to North Carolina University. And his just presence at that college alone has been able to boost that college's reputation for the decades to come after it. Who doesn't want to play in the greats, behind the greats of Michael Jordan and such and such? So, congratulations to UNC. That's it. That's it. Florida State got to play a little bit better, guys. They're rocking a 12-8 record. They can do better. They will be better. Next week, they're going to play Louisville Saturday, February 3rd, 8 p.m. If you want to see some Florida State college basketball, guys, that's going to be the game to check out. This will be a good chance for them to get back on their horse and try to get past this 500 spell that they've been in for the 2-2 in the last 4, like I said. Florida State, they're pretty much where we thought that they would be. Honestly, I thought that they would be a little bit worse this year. They're playing better than I expected, but they're not exactly the best team in Florida as far as college basketball is concerned. I would consider that team to have been earlier this year Miami. Right now, it looks like Florida, all right? Now, Miami and Florida rocking the same record, 14-6. Canes, they have a more impressive victory on their schedule than we do at the moment, which is the reason why I feel more comfortable saying that. They were also able to beat Pittsburgh 72-68 yesterday. Oh, my bad. I believe that was yesterday. And Pittsburgh rocking a 12-8 record, so same record as Florida State. ACC just seems to have this thing with 12-8 records. I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. In any case, the Canes solidifying themselves as a legit powerhouse as we get ready to slide into this month of February. And we will start to see them open it up a little bit, especially with the oncoming games that they have. They play NC State Tuesday, January 30th at 9 p.m. So if you want to see some Canes basketball, that'll be the next time you'll get the opportunity to watch them. NC State rocking a 13-6 record. So this will be a chance for them to really open it up. They've got a game lead over this team. I think that they're going to win the game. They're going to win it by tremendous defense. It's going to be a low-scoring game. They're going to make the bigger plays, the better plays, and they'll come out on top on NC State, guys. Miami is 2-2 in the last 4, but not to be shaky. Like I said, they have a better victory on their record, and that's why I think that Miami is probably the best team, but only by a sliver, only by a slight move of the needle do I think that they're better than the Florida Gators, guys. So that's what's going on there in college basketball. Gators, fundamentally surprising to see them playing this well. As long as they continue to do what they got to do, they'll be successful and find themselves in a 5 or 6 seed. Moving on into March Madness, the Noles, on the other hand, are going to have to pick it up. They're going to have to play a little bit more sustainable basketball. They're going to have to add a little bit of continuity on defense because, yes, unfortunately, they are just underperforming at times where they need to just do basic things correct, and that's the real issue at Florida State. So Florida has to do a better job not shooting themselves in the foot, and Florida State has to do a better job at performing better when it's necessary. Miami just needs to continue to, put their wins together. They need to stop going back and forth. Okay, they've got to stay consistent with their basketball, and it starts on the defensive end. When they're playing good defensive basketball, they win. Okay, when they're not playing defensively sound basketball and they're getting lost in transition, that's when they suck. Okay. And that's college basketball during the whole go. Guys, let's go ahead and get to our second break of the evening. When I get back, we'll wrap things up with what's going on in Rolex 24 there at Daytona today, guys. That started earlier at 1:40 p.m., just in case you were missing that or wanting to check it out. And then we'll also talk a tiny little bit about the Royal Rumble and what to expect moving forward. Okay, guys? Thank you for having it locked here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host. And as always, it is brought to you and powered by IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo Sports with a Twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
And welcome back to Palm Tree Sports Radio, guys. My name is Corey Pools, your host. And as always, this is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, guys. I would like to send a quick shout out to, not just all my listeners, of course, but also Liberty Manor, you guys. It's a place I do my community service for the vets. And, I just want to send a shout out to them because if you guys don't know, I did a tiny bit of time. I went to United States Army. Actually, I trained there. I completed BCT, but I collected an injury there at the end and was discharged due to that fact. I spent my entire senior year training with the United States Marine Corps in the DEP program before moving over to the United States Army. And, those guys are the real heroes, right? Because without the U.S. military, the U.S. would be owned by somebody else. China, Japan, Germany. If you know your history, you know what I'm talking about. There's too many instances where we have to look at our military and the people who lay down our lives for us to be able to be a free country and be able to do the things and have a radio show and talk about Florida sports, guys. So shout out to you guys. You guys are the real heroes. We love you guys. We continue to support you. Uncle Brian, if you're listening, shout out to you. I love you. Thank you for everything that you have done for this country and everything that the rest of the armed forces continue to do for this country every day and every night. Now then, moving on to the last few things we have to talk about. So I want to go ahead and talk about this part first because this is a very interesting thing. So for those of you who do not know, Daytona obviously is one of the biggest spots in the world for racing, okay? Now, I prefer drift circuit racing, okay? So I've been to actually 2 drift shows. My dad actually took me to one in St. Pete some time ago. It was absolutely phenomenal. Got to see these guys really tear out some asphalt and get their cars sideways and just it was absolutely phenomenal. I'm a huge fan. I'm a transporter. That's what I do for work, so I'm always around vehicles. Cars are great. I've never been the biggest NASCAR guy, but Daytona opens up every year this time for a big event called the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Yes, obviously I've heard of it, and if you're from Florida, you kind of have to at some point. Daytona is nothing but hour and a half, 2 hours away. I want to say it's about 2 hours, maybe it's 2 or 3. I don't know. The last time I was there was when I was a kid, so I couldn't tell you how far away it is from remembering, like I could for Orlando or for Miami, but it's not that far away. A lot of Tampa folks travel to Daytona and spend a lot of time there for this, and not just for this, but the Daytona 500 and all the other big races that take places over there at the Speedway. And this is an example of one of them. So the Rolex 24 is a big racing event. It's a 24-hour sports car endurance race, okay, for reference, just so you guys can have a mental picture of what it's like. Porsche comes in with the most victories at 18 victories. It was created back in the 1960s, so this thing's been going on for a long time. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's held annually every year, early on in the beginning of the year. And, it started at 1:40 p.m. today. It ends tomorrow at 1:40 p.m. tomorrow. So, if you guys are looking for that kind of thing, it is there available to you. It's an absolute juggernaut of a race. Personally speaking, like I said, because it's an endurance race, it's something that you're going to have the longevity for, to be able to sit down and want to monitor it the entire time. But shout out to the guys who do it. Like I said, this is top of the line endurance right here. This is a very hard thing to do for these guys, and I can only imagine how they feel coming out. And it's all being hosted down here in Daytona Beach every year. So get ready to see what happens with that tomorrow afternoon around 1:40 p.m. guys. Good luck to all the guys. I hope that everybody's safe. Safety first. And shout out to Daytona for hosting it. So if you're looking for that, check it out. Like I said, it's the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Huge race, not just for Daytona, but for any race fan. So go check it out if you are into racing. That's definitely going to be something for you to have a look at. Now then, as my dad mentioned into the chat, looking forward to the Royal Rumble tonight, and it's surprises on Peacock, 8 p.m. Out here in St. Pete. So that's the real reason why I want to talk about the Royal Rumble, guys. So this is not the first time that Tampa Bay has hosted the Royal Rumble. Each of the last 2 times is not Tampa Bay by way of St. Petersburg. Let me correct that. For all intents and purposes, I've mentioned this before, Tampa Bay is like, how can I say this? Tampa Bay has subsidiaries of itself. And that's how we look at it. So if somebody says they're from Tampa, they could really live in Brandon or St. Pete or something to that effect and just spend a lot of time in Tampa, because Tampa is the centerpiece. All right, so just to look at it in the middle, you got Tampa. If you go west, you have St. Petersburg. If you go east, you have Orlando and you have Brandon. And then if you go south, you've got Fort Myers is a bit out of the way, but if you go south, you've got Ybor City. And Ybor City, shout out Ybor City, guys. Gasparillo's going on, so shout out to all the guys for Ybor. They did the kids version last week, and this week is Gasparillo's. For any of you who are familiar with Gasparilla, it's the pirate parade that takes place here in South Florida every year. So this city is buzzing right now because we also are hosting the Royal Rumble. So the Royal Rumble is the event, comes around once a year. It's always a big event for WWE. Definitely one of the top 3 events I think they put on all year, next to SummerSlam and WrestleMania. It's always a pleasure for it to be out here. They've hosted it at Raymond James Stadium before, and then I also believe that the other place they hosted it was Amalie Arena, where the Bolts play. So for reference, Raymond James Stadium is where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play football. The Amalie Arena is where our hockey team, the Bolts, play hockey. And now St. Petersburg is hosting, and St. Petersburg, it would be at the Tropicana Field. Tropicana Field is where the Rays play baseball. So that's pretty cool, right? That Tampa Bay is getting to kind of spread around the love to all these different areas. So shout out St. Pete, shout out Tropicana Field, shout out to our beloved Rays. Rays up! We love you guys. Can't wait for the season to start. Spring baseball is right around the corner, guys. So that's going to be something to look forward to as well. Can't wait to get back to you about that. But yeah, so Royal Rumble. A couple big things tonight, just for those of you who are familiar with it. Obviously, I'm not going to go into huge detail about just some things to expect because of how exciting it is. But this Royal Rumble is going to see Roman Reigns defend his title in a Fatal 4-Way, so that's going to be fun to watch if you're a Roman Reigns fan. Obviously, CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, 2 of the biggest stars in wrestling, will be out there. Something else to look at. And then some debuts that we may or may not see coming. Obviously, Jade Cargill is going to debut for the Women's Royal Rumble. That's going to be a huge moment. Can't wait to see how that turns out. I hope that they do her well. She had a very successful run in AEW with a 65 or 66-1 record. So that's going to be something else to look out for. If you're not familiar with her work, get ready to be surprised, because that's an Amazon of a woman. You heard it here first. If you didn't know, now you know. And then also for the Men's Royal Rumble, there's the possibility that The Rock may return. I don't foresee him being in the Rumble match, but that is not outside of his repertoire. Don't be surprised if he does make the Royal Rumble match. I don't remember if I believe he has 1 Rumble Royal victory to his name, so making a second would be pretty cool. But also, MJF may also debut at Rumble. Now, we haven't seen him since he's lost his title, all right, in AEW. So this could be an example of one of those moments where we haven't seen a guy in a while and he debuts at Royal Rumble. Of course, that would be phenomenal if they do. I think he's one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. His storytelling is absolutely phenomenal. His in-ring Commentary is also something fun and something to behold. So get ready for a wonderful Royal Rumble, guys. Like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because there's another show for that. But realistically, something for you guys to look out for, and obviously putting my city on the map one more time. Shout out St. Petersburg by way of Tampa Bay hosting the Royal Rumble this year. Can't wait to see what happens there in the show, guys. And that's it, guys. That's what's going on. You know, I'm really happy you guys were able to join me here on Palm Tree Sports Radio, talk everything that's going on here in Florida. Like I said, we have now since laid down the the NFL teams here in Florida for the playoffs. Obviously, the Jaguars didn't make it. Miami, Florida, both knocked out respectively. And good luck to the rest of the teams that are in there, guys. I can't wait to see what happens on Sunday with these two games. I'll be watching both of them. And we shall go from there, guys. We shall go from there next week. Hopefully, we have some continuity on what to talk about as far as what's going on in NBA, college basketball, and in the NHL. We're getting ready to see the UFL take off as well within a few weeks. Can't wait for that to come back. Obviously, we'll be talking about any of the teams here in Florida. I'll go ahead and get the information headed your way. And yeah, that's it, guys. That's it. So I really, like I said, appreciate you guys joining me here on Palm Tree Sports Radio here on this Saturday afternoon. I really hope you guys enjoy your weekend. A lot of sports. Even though there's no football coming out of Florida, there's still a lot of sports to pay attention to. A lot of teams to check out and check up on a regular basis, especially if you're interested in this market and what we have going on, guys. I can't wait to get back to you next week, same time, same place, 6 p.m. on Palm Tree Sports Radio on IE Sports Radio. Your boy Corey Poole is going to be holding it down. I'll get all the information that's going on this week to you. In the meantime, between time, obviously some words of wisdom. Always take advantage of the opportunities that you have, especially if it's something in your field. Guys, I'm experiencing something of a drought of opportunity, and I'm praying for a turnaround. Hopefully something better and bigger is before us here in 2024, not just for myself, but for all you guys as well. I thank you guys, again, for listening to my show, and I hope to see you here, same time, same place next week. Spend time with your family. If you're going to church tomorrow, I'll see you there. Well, I may or may not see you there. We got to see what happens tomorrow, because tomorrow's actually a big day. But we'll go from there, guys. See you next week. Have a wonderful time. Like I said, enjoy the weekend. Have a drink. Have a drink, guys. And I will see you then, okay? Peace.